Gabriel Fauré died 100 years ago today. Perhaps it's timeless and doesn't need such sad birthday to commemorate the meaning of his musical language, what it brings to our psychological fulfillment. After all, in time, he's already timeless. My teacher, Mademoiselle Boulanger, was his pupil. And Mademoiselle Gervais used to say that Fauré is her country. It's a place where she lives every day with him, nourishing the soul. In imagination, in gardens, in smells, in nature, in thought process, in meaningful honesty, in beauty, and a sense of elegance, and a phrasing which has no need of a climax to justify its psychological statement, in a bass line which is melodic, layered, arched, which brings us always further, with harmonies which are never settled in one place, which are constantly ambiguous, transitioning. In other words, his music is like a flow of thoughts, of emotions, of expressions which are not shaped by an expected tension release. It's about an accumulation of ongoing emotional and intellectual jubilation. It's very demanding on the listener as well as of the performers, who meet in the middle, constructing a bridge, actively so. His music is food for our souls, but more than that, it brings us to another dimension of the meaning of what we are seeking without to be able to put it in words beyond faith. Perhaps it's not necessarily a music to sing or to dance or to pray, though also, and in parallel, the fact that sadly, like Beethoven, his second half of the life was passed in deafness. His music was seductive when he was young in post-romantic era, at least in time zones of the musical expression. But then the early modernity, he was timeless, reached him, or he reached it in the early 20th century when he was deaf. And you could argue, like for Beethoven, that his music becomes a little more cerebral, a little less seductive, while it was very deep, while not frivolous when he was young, but charming and like a perfume, a melody, a harmonization, an atmosphere remains with you and makes you feel almost better after having heard it. And not only by the effort which you put in as a listener to meet the performer in the flow of the events. You can characterize the modality, the chromaticism or semi-chromaticism, all kinds of ingredients which don't justify the sum of the effect that comes from this inhalation of his musical expression that fulfills our souls like a hot air balloon, and we feel like floating inside ourselves in a meaningful daydream, not in an escapism per se, though why not? In part, the daydream is that. Mademoiselle Boulanger, of course, was, as a teacher, a great proponent of the great names of the music world from before Bach to way after. And Fauré probably at some point will gather the status of the big names, of the great composers, and not just as a French composer of the end of the 19th century. Outside of that situation, while very French, he remains extremely universal. And while his music remains some entity to be discovered and marveled, and in a timeless connection towards a spiritual uplifting with sensual appeal. Thank you, Fauré.